ever think about, the hidden bits of our world,
Yeah.
the stuff that's absolutely crucial, but we maybe don't see every day? Well, today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, something called track curbing.
Right.
You might not have heard of it, but it's basically holding our railway networks together. Super important.
It really is. It's all about stability for the tracks, making sure they stay put, reducing vibrations, safety, efficiency, longevity. It covers a lot.
And it's built tough, right? Like concrete, steel, stuff that lasts.
Exactly. Designed to handle heavy trains, rough weather, you name it.
Okay, so it sounds specialized.
Yeah.
But the market size might surprise you.
Oh, definitely. We looked at some numbers from Cognitive Market Research, and globally it was valued around $1,545.6 million US dollars back in 2024.
Wow, okay, over 1.5 billion?
Yeah, and it's not stopping there. They're projecting it to hit something like 263.5 million by 2032.
That's quite a jump.
It is. That's a compound annual growth rate, a CAG of about 6.00%.
6%, steady growth.
It tells a story. It's tied directly to big investments in transportation, things like high-speed rail, metro systems expanding everywhere. It's more than just maintenance. It's a sign of progress.
Right, connecting regions, moving people faster. Okay, so we know what it is. We know it's growing. Let's unpack this for you, our listener. What's really driving this market right now? Let's get into the current trends, maybe some of the roadblocks, and definitely what's coming next.
Sounds good.
So that growth, is it just, more tracks being laid down? Or is something else pushing it?
Well, it's definitely more than just laying new track. It's sort of a perfect storm in a good way.
Okay.
You've got massive infrastructure projects kicking off worldwide, big money going into transportation.
Like high-speed rail and metros.
Exactly. High-speed rail, expanding city metro systems, urban transport generally. Plus, cities are growing, populations are booming, so the demand for efficient ways to move people just keeps rising.
And that directly fuels the need for this kind of advanced curbing. Makes sense.
It does.
It's pretty interesting how the global picture plays out here. Where are the hotspots?
Right now, North America actually holds the biggest slice, around 40% of the market share in 2024.
40%. Why so high there?
A lot of it is driven by high-speed rail development, but also modernizing older rail lines. Upgrades are a big part of it.
Okay.
And Europe? Europe's close behind, about 35%. Again, significant investment in their rail networks. They've always had strong rail infrastructure.
But the real action, growth-wise, seems to be shifting, right?
Absolutely. Keep an eye on Asia Pacific. It's projected for the fastest growth. They had about 20% share in 2024, but that's expected to climb to 25% by 2025.
20 to 25% in just 1 year. That's fast.
It is. The CAGR there is anticipated around 8.5% for that period.
Wow.
And a lot of that is countries like China and India. They're just pouring money into developing high-speed rail and new metro systems. It's really accelerating.
So that shift towards Asia Pacific, is that mainly brand new lines being built, or are they also doing the kind of modernization we see in North America?
It's largely new construction, I'd say, especially for high speed. But yes, modernization is definitely part of the mix too as their economies grow.
Okay. And with all that growth and investment, especially in new regions, the competition must be fierce.
Oh yeah, it's a very competitive space.
Who are the big names we should know?
As of 2024, the data points to Mondo being out front with about 20% share.
Yeah.
Then you have Gill Athletics at 16% and AAE around 12%.
Mondo, Gill, AAE. Got it.
And these guys aren't just sitting back. They're investing heavily in R&D, trying to come up with the next best thing.
Pushing innovation.
Definitely. And you also see strategic moves, mergers, acquisitions, partnerships, all aimed at grabbing more market share and broadening what they offer.
So it's likely to get even more competitive.
I think so, yeah.
Huh.
Especially by 2025, we'll probably see new companies jumping in, particularly trying to get a piece of that action in Asia Pacific.
So this intense competition isn't just about market share. It's actually driving innovation across the board for rail engineering standards, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. If you connect this to the bigger picture, it really is about the evolution of infrastructure. And track curbing systems, they have some real advantages.
Compared to what? Like the traditional gravel beds?
Exactly, compared to traditional ballast systems that crush stone you see. Track curbing is often preferred now because it's incredibly durable, it's efficient, and it does a better job minimizing how much the track moves or shifts.
Okay, less movement is key, especially for faster trains.
Precisely. So the benefits are things like long-term performance, much lower maintenance needs, and just holding up better under tough conditions. This is especially true for high-speed rail and busy metro systems.
Right. But ballast is still pretty common, isn't it? What's its share?
It is still common, Right now, if you look at the overall track support market, track curbing holds roughly 25%. Ballast systems are still dominant at about 40%, and then other technologies make up the remaining 35%.
40% for ballast is still significant. Is that just because it's cheaper, or are there times when it's actually better?
Good question. Ballast is generally cheaper upfront to install. That's true. And it can be easier to repair small sections. So for, say, lower speed lines or maybe in regions with really tight budgets, it can still make sense.
But for the modern stuff, high-speed, busy metros.
For those, track curbing's advantages in performance and low maintenance really shine through in the long run, and we do see that reflected in the trends. Track curbing share is expected to nudge up slightly, maybe to around 28% by 2025.
Okay, a gradual shift towards these more modern systems.
Yeah, it shows a move towards low-maintenance, high-performance solutions.
But it can't all be positive momentum, even with clear benefits and growth. There must be challenges, right? What's holding back even wider adoption?
Oh, absolutely. There are definitely hurdles. One of the biggest is simply the cost.
The cost. Makes sense.
Yeah, manufacturing and installing these advanced systems isn't cheap. You're dealing with specialized materials, advanced tech, sometimes even integrated smart features. It all adds up.
So the upfront investment.
Exactly. That upfront cost can be pretty prohibitive, especially for governments or companies that don't have huge infrastructure budgets to play with.
Okay. Cost is a big one. What else? You mentioned earlier they need to withstand tough conditions, but does the environment itself pose challenges to the curbing?
It certainly can. Despite being durable, they aren't indestructible. Think about extreme temperature swings, heavy rain saturating the ground, or even soil shifting underneath.
Like concrete roads cracking in the winter.
Sort of, yeah. These factors can affect the structural integrity over time, maybe lead to unexpected maintenance needs.
Yeah.
So it's a constant design challenge for the manufacturers. How do you make these systems super durable, but also adaptable to all sorts of environmental stress?
Right, building resilience against nature. That's tricky.
It is.
So we've got cost, we've got weather. What about the people side? And just getting it done. Logistics.
That's another really important point. Skilled labor.
Not enough trained people.
In some areas, yes, particularly in emerging markets where the demand might be growing fastest. Installing these systems properly takes specialized knowledge and expertise.
So maybe a need for more training programs.
Potentially, yeah. Investment in training and certification could be crucial. And related to that are lead times.
Meaning it takes a long time to get them made and installed.
It can, yeah. Producing these advanced systems and then installing them can sometimes take a while, which can unfortunately cause delays for important rail projects.
Okay, so cost, environment, skills, and time. Those are some significant roadblocks.
They are, but the industry's working on them.
So despite those hurdles, looking ahead, the future seems pretty dynamic. What kind of innovations are on the horizon that might help overcome some of this?
Well, technology doesn't stand still, right? We're definitely going to see ongoing innovation in materials. Think stronger, more resilient materials, but also greener ones, more environmentally friendly options.
Greener materials, like what?
Composites, maybe things that use recycled content, stuff like that. Also, big strides are likely in the manufacturing process itself.
How so?
Things like more automation on the production line, maybe even exploring things like 3D printing for certain components.
Yeah.
The goal there is to bring down costs and speed up production, make it more efficient.
That makes sense. Automation and new materials could tackle the cost and lead time issues.
Hopefully, yeah.
Now, this next part really caught my attention. The idea of the tracks themselves becoming intelligent. How does that work?
Yeah, this is really exciting. It ties into the whole Internet of Things or IoT trend. We're seeing more sensors, more data analytics being integrated into the rail sector overall.
So sensors in the track curbing.
Potentially, yes.
Yes.
Or alongside it. The idea is that the track curbing systems can provide real-time information about their own condition and performance.
What kind of information? Like if there's a tiny crack starting?
Exactly. Or
Yes.
stress points, temperature fluctuations, subtle shifts, early signs of wear, you name it. Data streaming back constantly.
Wow. The benefits must be huge.
Oh, absolutely. Think about safety catching potential problems way earlier. Maintenance becomes predictive instead of just reactive, which saves money. And overall, it just makes the whole rail network run more efficiently. It's genuinely a game changer for infrastructure management.
That is fascinating. Imagine the data these tracks could share. And alongside all this high-tech stuff, you mentioned sustainability earlier. That's a growing focus, too.
Definitely. There's a real push, a growing demand for solutions made from recycled or renewable materials.
So companies are actively developing these.
Yes, Things like biodegradable composites, other eco-friendly options. It aligns with global sustainability goals, and frankly, it's becoming a competitive advantage for manufacturers who can offer greener solutions.
So if you, our listener, didn't give track curbing much thought before, hopefully you now see just how vital this component is.
Yeah, it's pretty fundamental.
It's right there at the core of keeping our transport networks robust, resilient. And even with those challenges we talked about, cost, skills, environment, the market's clearly growing, powered by tech and massive global investment.
It really is.
So what does this all mean for the future of our commutes, our global connections?
What leaves us with an interesting thought, doesn't it? We know these advanced systems have high costs, and they need that specialized skilled labor.
Right, the hurdles we discussed.
So the question becomes, how does this essential but kind of niche market ensure that everyone gets access to advanced rail infrastructure? Especially thinking about emerging economies that have really ambitious development goals but maybe tighter budgets.
That's a critical point, the equity question.
Exactly. How do we balance driving innovation and performance with making sure it's cost-effective and accessible globally? That balance between cutting-edge tech and fair access, that's something worth thinking about in the whole picture of global infrastructure development.